1,214 days. The sound sounds strange to me. Let's see if I'm on. Okay, looking on Facebook to make sure I'm there. It says I'm live. Can everybody hear me? 14 days. Okay, I hear myself. Okay. All right, sorry that I'm coming on so late. Couldn't be helped. Couldn't be helped because this case is breaking open. This case is breaking open because there's something that I think they must be guilty of something. Okay? I think that they must be guilty of something. And that's a safe way of saying what's really going on. I'm not trying to manipulate the information. I'm trying to be safe. I'm trying to be as close to reality as possible. And this is 1,214 days since Richard went missing, and we're trying to find evidence, right? That's what we have been trying to do. In order to find Richard, we have to find evidence. And we were asked by the CID, by the command, to be the investigators for our son's case. So Richard went missing. We know that he didn't just go missing, that it was a code red, and that it came after July 9th, 2020. Why is that an important date? That is hard evidence. That is when the pretrial diversion was registered. It was agreed upon on July 7th, 2020, and it was registered on July 9th, 2020, when all of the retaliation was in jeopardy of being, well, it had been, it's not even jeopardy. The foundation of all of the retaliation against Richard, the attempt to paint him, to smear him as a criminal, as that they wanted to do in order to retaliate against him, in order to weaponize, as Elon Musk clearly stated in his mega lawsuit against Media Matters, which is, connected to El Paso Matters, right? El Paso Matters is connected to Media Matters. And, the attempt to weaponize the institution, the tools that we gave the military, that we gave our leadership in the military in order to create an esprit de corps, a fighting force that could defend the Constitution of the United States, which means the land and the people. You just can't say the word Constitution. You have to say the defense of the land and the people. And because that's what that's all about, is the people's rights and the land in which we live on. And so they are to defend that, and they are to create a fighting force that is in line with the spirit of the Constitution. You cannot create a thug group. You have to create esprit de corps. And so we have given our leadership tools in order to non-judicial punishment, to align these young, beautiful sons and daughters of our country, to discipline them not meaning punishment, but teach them how to work together in esprit de corps for the defense of the Constitution. It's very clear. And that's why we say non judicial punishment, meaning the Article 15. And so, what they have done, though, is they have forgotten their duty. They have no integrity. They have no loyalty. And they have sold themselves out to serve somebody else, these leaders, and they have weaponized, just like Media Matters, they've weaponized their position that we have granted them, we have given them, we have paid for. They've weaponized them against the very land and the people that they are to defend, right? So that means their whole moral compass has now been corrupted, has been tarnished. And that's called betrayal. That's called treason. That's called, what do you call that? In my book, that's what you call that. It's called betrayal. And when they weaponize it, and they've weaponized it in Richard's case, they weaponized the Gomar, the permanent Gomar. They gave Richard a permanent Gomar. Richard, an E4. They gave him a permanent Gomar for uh, this setup. This setup at in a parking lot, DUI, where we have gotten information that Belen Rocha was the caller of the 9/11 call, and somehow she knows Jesus Melendez, the canine cop, the arresting force, and pointed Richard out sitting in the car who he just gave her a ride. And she admitted to the PI that she was using Richard to get a ride. She was using him. So she seems to be, allegedly, apparently, she sent him up. And there was another person there, another person that is connected, I believe, to those that were making sure that everything happened the way it was supposed to happen. Okay. And yeah, there was another person there. And so this is creating, falsifying evidence, falsifying charges, falsifying allegations. They are creating uh, a crime on Richard that Richard didn't do. That's what that was. And that's in January and July. The judge, thank God, thank you, God, for Alma Trejo. She absolutely saw through the whole setup, and she gave Richard a guarantee of dismissal on July 7th of 2020, and it was registered on July 9th of 2020. That is hard evidence, okay? And all of the retaliation just got an earthquake, just got a 2x4 hit against their heads. All the Major General Clem Coward got a 2x4 hit against his head. And the same thing with Lieutenant Colonel Michael Roddick. That day when Alma Trejo guaranteed Richard a dismissal, that was a 2x4 against the Major General's head, and also Lieutenant Colonel Michael Roddick's head. And what do I mean about that? It made them go crazy. It made them go crazy because the Gomar had no foundation. The permanent Gomar had no foundation. The lieutenant colonel did not know what to do with his field grade. Richard had never gotten any kind of punishment before this. This field grade Article 15 had fell apart. What was the general and the lieutenant colonel going to do? you know? And who set them up to that? Well, it seems like all roads lead to Leilani Hart. Okay? Absolutely, Leilani Hart knows Major General Clem Coward. She has known him for years and years. Okay? Years and years. And we will give the evidence for that. Also, we have the evidence for that. We will give the evidence for that. And they were retaliating against Richard for what? For turning in CPS complaints, turning in complaints to law enforcement authorities, handing them evidence in the likes of sex videos. And we know that Leilani Hart's son, Dallas Hart, Richard's he's a former first lieutenant platoon leader, was rushing over to her house to get some child porn to hide it. To get some child porn to hide it. Why would he want? Why would he be nervous? Why would he come right after he got back from deployment, rush over there, and try to hide the child porn? Was someone reporting him? Did he have some worries? Because we know by Leilani Hart's own words that there was child porn for long periods of time in her house. It was nothing new. And for decades, there was uh, child, uh, child, well, let's just say child predators that sexually assaulted the children in an incestuous way. Incest, you heard me right, in an incestuous way, and that they created child care, Hearts Child Care, and and Leilani Hart didn't seem to mind that they were in that James Hart, and maybe we're getting information that it was Dallas Hart too, into Hart's Child Care, right? And she, didn't seem to mind to even leave her friends' children with them for care and come back and not even report that the 7-year-old was sexually assaulted in her master bedroom. Okay? So, this is hard evidence. We have the CID case number for that. We have the FBI case number for that. We have turned those in to the authorities, to Major General Eisenhower. Major General Eisenhower doesn't seem to care that an active duty soldier, 7-year-old child, was sexually assaulted by multiple members of Leilani's household in her master bedroom. He doesn't seem to care about the hard evidence. You see, this is it. It doesn't seem to bother uh, Senior Special Agent Veltri, right? It doesn't seem to bother Marlon Soto or Tavita Nusa, right? Or, what other law enforcement, the FBI. It doesn't seem to bother them that this is hard evidence and that this hard evidence is being overlooked, not identified. Remember, these are crimes, these are felony crimes. Even her lying about something like this and manufacturing this allegation is a major crime. And they are overlooking these crimes, right? Why? Why? They cannot identify the crime. They cannot identify that there is crime there. Whichever way you look at this is criminal. And in order to identify the crime, you have to have the hard evidence. And we have the hard evidence. And there is no doubt in our mind that Dallas Hart was Richard's former platoon leader with that first lieutenant rank. Okay, you know, uh, that's not a coincidence. And there is also a lack of transparency by Fort Bliss because Major General Eisenhower, just like the very evil, dirty lieutenant general that needs to be stripped from that uniform, that beautiful uniform, and his stars, Sean Bernabe, who is now, he has been made in charge of Fort Cavazos, Fort Hood. Can you believe it? This was a slap in the memory of Vanessa Guillen. To make such a demon man, such a guy, such a bad guy, in charge of Vanessa Guillen's gate, right? It is just a disgrace. It's a disgust. That's what it is. It's a disgraceful disgust that he's in charge over there, um, because he cannot be trusted. He cannot be trusted at all with our volunteer sons and daughters. He cannot be trusted with the tools that he has been given by the United States people to create an esprit de corps. No, he's a cover up agent of death. He's an agent of death, y'all. And I just can't even tell you how much evidence we have of it. We have so much evidence. And the evidence is on our side. So much evidence that I can come here on a live stream and talk about a 3-star general that does not deserve those stars. Matter of fact, he deserves to be arrested. He deserves to be arrested along with Leilani Hart because he colluded with Leilani Hart. He colluded with Thomas Kane. He colluded with Ann Ogle. He colluded with James Hart. He colluded with Dallas Hart. He colluded with P.P. McGee, his SJA, colluded with General McConville, colluded with General Garrett, colluded with Lieutenant General Donna Martin, who is now the Inspector General of the Army. And so we have, you know, inch by inch, we're putting in these complaints to protect the volunteer sons and daughters of this country, to bring back integrity, to bring back honor and loyalty and esprit de corps in the defense of our beautiful Constitution that grants the people rights on this land and the protection of this land. And so, you know, this evidence that we give you every day, that Leilani Hart absolutely tampered with Richard's case. How did she tamper with it? How could be? These are the things that we're looking into. Did she delete or manipulate any kind of digital records, such as emails, messages, files related to Richard's case? Did she forge documents? Did she create false documents? We know, we have evidence that she has lied to law enforcement authorities over and over again. How did she do that? She made false allegations, put together false stories about people, lied about people. She did that right there at Park University. Anna Whitehead could tell us how, and even the regional director who was a victim of Leilani Hart's fabricated, manipulated, false stories, allegations, could tell you, could absolutely tell you. We've talked to so many people, and so we are absolutely, we know that she likes to create false information, right? So, and did she create false documents, right? Misleading information to divert the investigation away from the crucial leads. And we know, we have evidence that even false witnesses were created. That's why we want the money. We want the money to see who was paid off to be a false witness, okay? Because we have evidence, we have hard evidence of false witnesses. So, in this case, where timelines changed, okay? Was there a tampering of chronological order? See, this is why we're having such a hard time with Richard's timeline, because we believe there was tampering with the chronological order of events in Richard's case. And that would cause a lot of confusion. And it was so much confusion that Marlon Soto was, presenting that confusion to us, and also to, this is very important, to the law enforcement community. So this information was given to the law enforcement community, right? Those that are charged for looking for Richard. And so this false narrative, this false chronological order, was given to the law enforcement agency. This is our, um, well, apparently, from all of our information, that is what was happening. I have to say that to make sure, right? Um, were testimonies influenced by Leilani Hart? Absolutely. We have evidence of testimonies being created, whole Facebook sites being created. We have the deletion of big hunks of information on the internet, on Facebook, being taken off. Just so much information being deleted and manipulated, even spliced and cut and all of that. And that's why we want to know the monies. Who was paid to do this vast work? This is where, the 9 million, the 12 million, the 20 million, the 22 million dollars that it took to manipulate Richard's case comes into play, because in order to clean up and manipulate and delete information on the internet was a big part of this. And so we have evidence, hard evidence of that. And that even debunks the Richard walked away, because if Richard just walked away, why would they feel it necessary to delete and splice and manipulate information from 143 ADA, from 243? Why would they have to do that if Richard just walked away? So that in itself is evidence, right? But we also have the proof, the evidence there. This is that asymmetric warfare tactic. And why was an asymmetric warfare officer from the asymmetric warfare group assigned to be our liaison? And then we catch him creating and doing just what Leilani Hart's, he's creating and doing the same thing. And then we catch Veltri doing the same thing too, trying to say things that would prevent a witness from stepping forward, right? That's another thing that they do. They tell these false stories, or they put out this false information out there to divert any witness from coming forward. So that was a huge effort, and that's why we want to know the monies, because they don't want the witnesses coming forward. Also, misplacing the evidence. A lot of the videos, the CCTV footage, this was misplaced, this was deleted, this was tampered with. And, we um, have information from Thomas Kane, who was in charge of all of that. And we have information from Marlon Soto that, uh, you know, was supposed to be getting this, um, the CCTV footage, pieces of evidence, but this was tampered with. We know from Richard's archive that evidence was tampered with, that evidence was deleted. Um, and the whole narrative, they had to clean themselves up because of that evidence of July 7th, 2020, July 9th of 2020, when everything fell apart. And they decided then that the code red was now not just retaliation, not just continuous severe retaliation, but that they would have to murder Richard, right? And so then, we believe that they had the talks, they had to organize themselves in order to murder him, right? Um, that's just a huge motive there. That's a huge motive, because now what were they going to do? They were going to have to suffer the punishments themselves for falsely accusing and then going to the extreme measure of punishing an innocent soldier that pled innocent the whole time, never, ever, ever admitted to anything but his innocence, right? He maintained his innocence throughout that whole time, and they falsely weaponized the Gomar, the Field Grade Article 15. They weaponized it and they used it against him, not just a little bit, but the extreme measure for everything. Extreme measure for everything. Not a Gomar, but a permanent Gomar. Not with a chaptering 14 on it. Not a Article 15, right? But a field grade Article 15. And not just with one rank or 30 days. No, it had to be the extreme. And then they had to go even further and have him wear full body gear to do his 45 days. So they went to the extreme for everything, for something that he maintained his innocence of the whole time. And then a judge sided with him and said, yes, he's innocent. And, and what was the charge? That they said they had to go to this extreme measurement. Underage drinking, yeah. And they say they take it seriously. That was like, I just wanted to laugh in their face every time, because it was so insane. And I told them, this is insane. um so also falsifying alibis. um we have Danae Katzen's evidence, right? And Danae Katzen, we know, is very close to Leilani Hart. They are close, and they are close. Danae is close to the Rochas, right? That family, the Katzen family, and the Rochas family, they are very close. They share a grandmother. They share grandparents. I mean, yeah, they're so close. So this falsifying alibis is absolutely, um, you know, uh, a hindrance, uh, because individuals that are implicated in this, it redirects away from their the real truth of the matter. So, and then also the sabotaging of forensics. We have irregularities with Dr. Mario Rascon Ortiz. There are huge irregularities. We have the 3705, 3905 Bliss Avenues that um, uh, are occupied by life leases, which is very unusual, by the Danae Katzen's family, by Belen Rocha's family, and Belen Rocha's family seem to be in the the funeral business, the mortuary affairs business, and the insurance business. And with every evil regime, they always are in that death and insurance business, right? Because that's why they had to kill off, this whole thing with Germany or with Armenia. When you look into it, the laws of the land were that if the whole family, if there was no inheritor, um, then the state would get the inheritance. The state would get the insurance claim wealth, right? And so, they always try to make it about some kind of religion or something, hate or whatever. They don't say no. It's primarily greed. Greed. It's the coveting what others have, and let's kill off the whole family so we can get their wealth. Um, yeah, let's. Yeah, that's so this is all about something happening there at 3905 Bliss Avenue, 3705 Bliss Avenue. It looks like insurance. We have Danae Katzen hard evidence of her admitting. And should I put it up? Maybe I should clip it. But she's telling the PI that she's in the insurance business. Okay, she's an insurance agent, and and wow, that yeah. So and then if Eddie Rocha, and I've reached out to them, Eddie Rocha, Lydia Rocha, if they are in the mortuary affairs, if they're a contractor with mortuary affairs, that would be very easy for the CID to look up, right? That would be very easy evidence for to be reported to Major General Clem Coward. Very easy. We also have the false allegations that sabotaging um, witnesses with El Paso Matters, right? Where, uh, we have this evidence, we have this witness testimony that Felix Valenzuela was behind this information to uh, oh, collude, I guess that would be the right word that I'm trying to find, to collude with El Paso, not, yes, El Paso Matters. Did I say Media Matters? I meant El Paso Matters. El Paso Matters to collude with them, with Lalani Hart, with Angela Kachurga, to develop this story to uh, divert attention from the real evidence to do a political job on a key witness in this case that, by the way, was deleted, scrubbed from Richard's file. That here we have a key witness that reported to the CID, that reported to the FBI, that he had evidence, hard evidence, that Lalani Hart manipulated, tampered with Richard's file. Okay? Hard evidence that Lalani Hart tampered with Richard's file, and that Lalani Hart is the mother of former First Lieutenant Dallas Hart, Richard's platoon leader, okay, and having an affair with Tavita Nusa, the CID special agent, having an affair with him, and and the El Paso Police Department getting a report that said that Lalani Hart was bragging, boasting that she controls the Fort Bliss CID. So this is hard evidence, irregularities and circumstantial evidence that we have over and over. And this is just like, my Oma used to say, just this much of the evidence. The whole hand hasn't even been, we don't even have time tonight to give the whole hand. It's only this little bit on my little finger what we have against Leilani Hart, because her and what we have against El Paso matters. And there's so much evidence for X, right? For Elon Musk, that Media Matters was weaponizing itself against his business, Twitter, and I should be on Twitter more. His business, X, which was Twitter, and he's tired of it. He is tired of this false uh, or these attacks on businesses using false information, right? And creating, impersonating, I think that would be impersonating witnesses, right? Impersonating those that make false allegations. And it seems like Felix Valenzuela is a standard operating procedure is to falsify information, uh, to create false witnesses. And this is a real problem because he was the defense attorney for Patrick Crusius in the Walmart case that we believe uh, there's a very, very, very high chance that it was used to cover up the monies and the proceedings behind the scenes of Richard's case. And so, if he is given the charge of the Patrick Crusius case, what was he really doing? He didn't have to really do a lot to defend Patrick Crusius because Patrick Crusius was so guilty. He's caught on video. They have his gun, they have his fingerprints on the gun, they have the forensics of the bullets, they have the victims, they have it all. So, how could he defend him, right? How could he defend him? What was he spending 4 years on? Was he spending 4 years on really Richard's case? In manufacturing and falsifying and creating a false a, false cases, false allegations, false witnesses, false evidence and everything against Richard, right? Was he the prosecutor for Richard or the defense for Leilani Hart? Well, our information is he's the defense attorney for Leilani Hart. And the way to get Leilani Hart off of this, because we have proof that she was tampering with Richard's file, so we have proof that this is a real problem because it went to the FBI, right? It went to the FBI and to the CID, these charges against her. And so she needed a defense attorney. And the only way to get her off would be to falsify evidence, falsify witnesses, and do a hit job on key witnesses in Richard's case and manipulate and everything. This is our opinion for Team Farm Richard Halliday. This is our opinion today that Felix Valenzuela was engaged in tampering and botching our son's case in order to defend Leilani Hart. It didn't have much to do with Patrick Crusius at all. Patrick Crusius was just that case. The case was used as a cover up, as a money law. It was a cover up and a funnel to hide the monies that were going to Richard's case. That is our suspicion. That is our opinion. And that's why we asked the officer of the governor, Governor Abbott, to show us the money. Give us our piece, right? Give us our piece, right? Help out this soldier that has absolutely is missing and murdered, right? Help out this soldier and show us the monies, right? Show us all the accounting of these millions and millions of dollars, and then we will be at peace, or we will have more hard evidence because we're getting unofficially upwards from 9 to 20 million dollars, and that was months ago that we received this information. So how much is it now, right? How much is it now? What are they doing behind the scenes under the guise of other excuses, of other narratives, right, to cover up our son's case? And absolutely, it's a cover up. There's not a doubt in my mind that this case is not one big, huge cover up behind the scenes, trying to shuffle things around. And this is a real problem for Team Farm Richard Halliday, because these are law enforcement agents. This is our law enforcement community, and what they are charged with, what we want them to do, what we pay our taxes for, is for them to investigate, get evidence, and identify crimes so that they can document those crimes, so those crimes are then prosecuted. And that costs a lot of money. What do you think it costs to have all of these criminal data banks, right? That costs a lot of money. Thank you, God. Just to have all of this information documented, that we have these crimes documented, that costs a lot of money. And then the prosecution costs a lot of money. And what do we want for it? We want a safe and vibrant community, a place we can do our business. Esprit de corps in our cities, esprit de corps in our neighborhoods. That's what we want. We want the defense of the Constitution, the land and the people, that we can have our rights and we can have our businesses and we can walk down the street. We can go into a Walmart with our children and not be afraid that the likes of this man that was executed a couple days ago would kidnap my child and be a demon with her to her death, and then try to burn her up or whatever and throw her out, right? We have to document and prosecute and serve the punishment. And the punishment in that guy's case was death. And the judge, not even being a real conservative judge, said, I sentence you to death. The crime was so horrible that she just had to say, I sentence you to death, right? And that was it. That was it. That's all it took. And, get up and walk out, right? So, why it took over 20 years, we don't know, because how many children were hurt in those 20 years that might not have been hurt if they would have had the headlines, this child, this person that hurt a child is now dead, because we identified the crime, we documented the crime, and we prosecuted the crime, right? And so now what we have is the I don't want to see any evil. I don't want to see any evil. I don't want to hear any evil. I don't want to say any evil. I don't want it. I'm going to let it just happen. I don't want to identify the crime. I do not want to document the crime. I do not want to prosecute the crime. I do not want to defend the Constitution, which means justice for all, right? Justice for all, not just for the criminals, right? Not just for those that have a lot of money in their bank account. Like Elon Musk, who he is going to have to, this is a broken window theory. He has to prevent from doing things that would create jobs, that would create a progress in our country, because he has to use monies to defend his businesses and sue Media Matters. Okay? So this is, when someone sues, when someone has to defend themselves and they have to use all this money to defend themselves, That means this entrepreneur cannot do another project which would provide hundreds of jobs, could not, which would progress the United States, which would increase the esprit de corps, right? The good feelings, the let's work together attitude, because he has to allocate money to uh, go after legally media matters. Okay, so this is something people have to realize. It's called the broken window fallacy, and you can look that up, read it a few times. It is really, really important to, you know, reprogram ourselves to what it means to have to spend money into fixing a broken window that happened because of crime, and the business owner then can't do it, use that money for other things that he wanted to do or she wanted to do, right? So it's really important to understand economics in all of this. And that's why we wanted to know from Miss Amy Snoddy's record. Tell us, this is an open record. This is public information. You're working for us. We're paying you the money. Show us what you're spending our money on, right? Show us what you're spending our money on, right? It's not their money. They think it's their money. It's not their money. It's our money. And we've entrusted it to them to do the right thing. And we have absolutely every right to get that information and to look at it and to oversight what they have been doing with our money. Okay, that's very, very important. Um, so, yeah, we have so much hard evidence, and we haven't forgotten about Josh Lyons, right? The asymmetric warfare liaison that was up to no good, absolutely up to no good, and we caught him, and we have the hard evidence. And we have the hard evidence from Nadal Baim. We have the hard evidence from PP McGee. PP McGee saying to us that they take underage drinking seriously, instead of saying, ma'am, Alma Trejo, if you look right here, uh, exonerated Richard by dismissing his case. By dismissing his case. So this is a point of motive. This is a point of motive, and I will make sure that the CID knows this, and I will make sure that Sean Bernabe, the demon general sitting beside me, knows this. But no, they did not tell us that. They did not tell us that. They use that information. He needs to be disbarred. So PP McGee needs to be disbarred. They misrepresent the law, okay? And we just put in another complaint, and you have to be really, really. You almost have to get a law degree, but we have technology today that helps us to determine if what they're saying to us is legal. And so many times it's not legal. It is not legal what they're saying. They misrepresent the law to divert our attempt to get justice for our son, to get to the bottom of his whereabouts. Where is his remains? Where are his remains? What did you do with his remains? Please do not tell me that Eddie Rocha handled Richard's remains and that he was dismembered and they sold off his parts. Please do not tell me that. Please do not tell me that they put his body on these planes with these children, these 85,000 unaccounted for minors. That, Ann Ogle and Leilani Hart colluded. In our opinion, they need to be investigated. What did Ann Ogle do all this time? And, with with Leilani Hart being involved in everything, I'm sure she was totally involved in the collusion with Anne Ogle. Okay? 80, because, she wanted to get a badge. She wanted to get into that emergency intake center. Now, the likes of Leilani Hart, she did not want to get into that emergency intake center because she cared about children. Now, that's my opinion, because she can't even identify the major felony crimes in her own house against her own children and her friends' children. I will say children. She can't even identify and report those crimes, and so she wants to get into uh, intake center. And don't forget her friends. She was an active duty soldier. Okay, her friend was an active duty soldier. And so she's trying to get into the emergency intake center because she just really loves taking care of children, making sure these children are taken care of. Taking care of 85,000, not 100, not 1,000, not 20,000, right? Not 30,000, not 40,000, not 50,000, not 60,000, not 70,000, not 80,000, 85,000 unaccounted for that we know of. That we know of. The numbers might be different now. In what, 2 years? 85,000. And when was this intake center, this really, really bad intake center, opened up? Just the very beginning of 2021. Very beginning of 2021. Was it the first one there in El Paso? No. No. They have been emergency intake centers there for a while, right? I don't know what number this one is. Is it number 4? Is it number 5 intake center in the history of intake centers there at Fort Bliss? I don't know. Who knows that? Who knows that? Someone can give me that information. I'll be glad. But this one, right at the very beginning of 2021, this intake center was put into force. And in that very short time, 85,000 unaccounted for minors ages 13 to 17. 13 to 17 for the most part. There were some younger. So right at the height of their vim and vigor, right at the height of their, coming into their adulthood, they just go missing. Are they enslaved somewhere? Were they killed? Did they go through 3905 Bliss Avenue? Did they go through the William Beaumont mortuary affairs? What happened to these children? Did they go into the tactical move storage units? Did they get onto that Cessna 550? Who to serve? Who to serve? What is going on here? And, did they go over to Heart Child Care? Did they go over to Heart Child Care in Leilani Hart's master bedroom? Is that what happened to them? I mean, this is, what sex videos did Richard turn in? And why is there such a hatred for me asking these questions that we have hard evidence? There's hard evidence that there's 85,000 missing minors from Fort Bliss in just a short time like that. We have hard evidence that the Hart family, being James Hart, and we're getting information that it was Dallas Hart also, but that James Hart had Hart Child Care. What does he want with that? He works for the VA. He works for the VA on the health board. Is that not enough for him? He has all of these other LLCs. What is he doing? Why didn't they look at his his bank accounts, right? How many wives does he have? We'd like to know. And what is Leilani Hart's real name? What is her history? And how is she connected to Clem Coward? And why did Clem Coward have to come down with a hammer, the first one to come down with his hammer on Richard? And then called off the search for Richard, right? Called off the search for Richard. Did not follow normal protocol. This is hard evidence. People have to understand this. This is hard evidence that Clem Coward came down with a hammer on top of Richard to destroy his military career, right? Allowed harm to Richard through this Field Grade Article 15 with maximum punishment and then some, for frivolous reasons, not even frivolous reasons, but reasons that Richard maintained his innocence, and it was an ongoing case. And then when Richard was given a guarantee of dismissal, he ends up dead, disappeared and dead. He ends up missing and murdered. And Clem Coward doesn't follow protocol, doesn't make sure, even in the midst of Vanessa Guillen. This was in the midst of Vanessa Guillen. When the brown stuff was hitting the fan because they found her remains. And this 2-star general did not even think that he needed to click some hills together to notify family, to follow protocol, to do things right in the case of a missing, murdered soldier under his watch. That is hard evidence right there. And then he ups and disappears. He ups and disappears to sexual harassment and sexual assault in Washington, D.C. They disappear him. They don't keep him there to answer to the parents for an investigation. That's hard evidence. Where was the platoon leader? Where was Lieutenant Colonel Michael Roddick? Where was Richard's unit when we got there? Where were they? Right? And let me tell you, were they gagged? Were they gagged? Or were they so afraid? No esprit de corps. Let's just tie them into knots. Let's tie their tongues into knots. Let's show these young people who's boss here. And it's not the Constitution. It's not the defense of the Constitution. It's not integrity. It's not honor. Let's just tie them into knots. And so they will be so afraid, they'll be shaken trying to get out of the knots, but shaken and not say anything about the whereabouts of Richard and what they knew. About the illegal activities that were going on around them, that they were even probably participating in. Because let me tell you, they groom our sons and daughters. They come in and they groom them so hard, putting them in this environment, this criminal environment. Why? They want to turn them into criminals so that they won't become whistleblowers. You know, if you can corrupt our young people, they're going to keep quiet. And so I want to reach out to those young people, because I want every young soldier to know, and service member to know, the ones that know about Richard especially, that we absolutely understand that the environment that they put you in, the stumbling blocks that they put all around you. They put like mines around you. You know, the drug mine and the rape mine and the mental hazard mine and the um, alcohol mine and the whatever. They just put all kinds of bombs around you, stumbling blocks around you. A 17-year-old, an 18-year-old, so and so's sister, so and so's brother. And they mix you all together, don't even identify that women have different needs than men and that there's way more men than women, that the women might be at risk for sexual harassment, sexual assault. They can't even identify what causes that these young people are full of vim and vigor, the height of their vim and vigor. You don't stick them in together where there's 9 men to 1 woman, 10 men, 15 men, 20 men to 1 woman. Are you kidding me? And then add alcohol to that, and then bring in the party girls, and then the 14-year-old there to be prostituted out. And then what about the children? What about the children? The 14-year-old is a child, right? And then, you have these parties and everyone has a camera and they videotape it and they go, "Ooh, I got you on camera. Look what I did to you. You better shut your mouth. Look what I did to you. You're now corrupted. You're now corrupted. You now are no threat to me. You cannot be a whistleblower." That's what they do. That's not esprit de corps. That is not esprit de corps. What would you call that? And we have hard evidence. We have hard evidence. It's so bad because we even have soldiers that are no longer with us as hard evidence of this type of activity in the barracks that is used to manipulate or prevent any kind of witness from coming forward, which is a crime. That's a crime. And who's in charge of this? Well, Alani Hart says she's in charge of it. I'm in charge of Fort Bliss. I'm in charge. I'm so proud to be able to groom these young people into corrupt individuals that they are so ashamed that they can't even come forward and whistleblow. She's saying, Leilani Hart saying, I'm in charge. I'm in charge of the CID. And I can tamper with Richard's case and then go after the key witness and get away with it. Who is she? Who is backing her up? It must be, is it a foreign country? Is it someone that's working for a foreign country? I mean, I don't get it why Major General Eisenhower is not fuming mad and hasn't kicked her out and got her arrested. And we're being told that other federal agency is getting fuming mad and her arrest is imminent. So let's just pray that happens. Let's just pray. But let's look at Dallas. Why is his face being used on top of Richard's in the Interpol? We have that hard evidence. And they think that's funny? That's not funny. That's hard evidence. That's hard evidence of manipulating, falsifying, creating false information to Interpol. I don't think Interpol will take that very kindly. So we'll see because we have notified them about that. And, and I want to make clear that this is uh, our presentation to you, our opinion to you. I have to make sure that I put that disclaimer on there. Because we have law enforcement agencies that do not want to give the family the right to investigate, to collect the evidence, to identify the crime, to report the crime, to document the crime, so that the crime can be prosecuted and save the lives of our service members and bring back integrity into our military, and to also save the uh, uh, look, we just had a family of 4 get murdered in their house at Fort Stewart. Fort Stewart is where um, Austin Hawk was murdered. And now we have a family of 4, and they don't want to identify the crime to us. They don't want, this is our soldiers, our service members. It's not their service members, it's our service members and their families. We care about them. We want to honor them. We don't want this to happen to them, that they're in their house and all of a sudden they're dead. And they won't even tell us how they died. I don't know. Did anyone get a report on that, on how they died? It does. I haven't read it on how they died. It's like being kept a secret. Why? Why is I mean, don't they understand that all of this secrecy, all of this incompetence to identify the crime and document the crime and prosecute the crime is why people don't want to join the military? I mean, don't they get that? I mean, the normal person understands that there's crime out there. But when you have an organization, when you have an institution that doesn't even want to identify the crime, that doesn't want to document the crime, they don't want to sign their name. This murder is a crime. This soldier was code reded. This soldier was forcibly removed and then tortured and then murdered and then dismembered, and we will not stand for it. Why don't they understand that by not identifying and documenting and prosecuting is why the sons and daughters of this country do not want to serve? Because there's no justice, there's no truth there, there's no esprit de corps, there's no defense of the Constitution, the land, and the people. And I hope that makes sense. Um, I believe you have to have a state uh, insurance license to sell insurance. Yes, does Danae Katzen have a state insurance license? I don't know. I don't think so. I was told no, she doesn't. Have I went and looked myself? No, but I was told that someone looked and that she doesn't have it. Well, that means she is uh, an imposter. She's an imposter again. Not the first time, always again. Oh, I am a dog babysitter. Oh, I am, uh, a witness to Richard's credit card. Oh, I am an insurance agent. She's an imposter. She's a con man. This is crimes. Why is she not in jail? Who is protecting Danae Katzen? And what else did she do in Richard's case? So many people, all of these people need that So many people need to be arrested, and we have the evidence, the hard evidence. They can talk about me, but where's the evidence? Show me Richard's platoon leader if it's not Dallas Hart. Dallas Hart is Richard's platoon leader. Okay? Show me Richard. Show me Richard if you think Richard just walked away. Don't tell me that they can't find Richard. Richard is not, Jason Bourne. Yeah, show me Richard. And if Richard is so criminal, then why did Alma Trejo, along with the bond agent, is like, hey, nope, he's looking pretty good to me. Oh, he's so sweet. She said, he's so sweet. He's so nice. He's so sweet. Show me the evidence of these, and can they manufacture? Well, they already stole his identity because we know that they used his social security number. They know, I think they've even stolen our identity. And we know that they had access to all of our records. All of our records, y'all. So the father of Dallas Hart had access to all of Rob's records. That's, if you want to know about the vile, vulgar 3 months of being harassed, that was part of it. To let us know that they had access, that they had power. Well, you know what? They are nothing. They are nothing to the power of God. Nothing. They are lightweights. Lightweights. God is the heavyweight champion of the world. And they are nothing because the stars in their course fought against Sisera. And Sisera didn't have a chance. Not a chance. Ended up with a tent peg in his brain. Because, the wheels of justice, this is what I was told this week. Let me see if I can repeat it. The wheels of justice move slow, but when they move fine. And that, I was thinking about that because, God is so long suffering. He's so long suffering. He's waiting for these people that know what happened to come forward, to try to make a plea deal, to try, to be a little bit less evil than the major perpetrators. He's waiting. He's waiting for them. He's waiting for them to put God over the criminal syndicate, the criminal cabal, the criminal cartel, the criminal enterprise. He's waiting. And so because, justice to me is always God. So justice is moving slow, waiting patiently, but without any mistakes at all. Fine, very fine. And I just want to tell some of these people out there, because we have the long list. We have the long list of all these people, and that they made false allegations. They were part of this whole false narrative, the smear campaign. We also know of those that did actually the crimes. And, all of it seems to all lead to Leilani Hart. And, of course, with Leilani Hart is Dallas Hart's mother. Okay? Leilani Hart is Dallas Hart's mother. She's up to no good. She's working hard to manipulate everything. And Richard was reporting. Dallas was trying to hide the evidence that the child porn. But we have evidence. And it all seems, the evidence, step by step by step. Felix Valenzuela leads to Leilani Hart. Right? Not to Patrick Crucius. Felix Valenzuela leads to Leilani Hart. Not to Patrick Crucius. That's weird. Felix Valenzuela leads to other people too. And they're all involved in Richard's case. Why is that? Why does it lead to Richard's case? And then back to Leilani Hart. El Paso Matters leads to Leilani Hart. Angela Kacherga using an unreliable source like Leilani Hart in the case. She didn't use a reliable source. She used an unreliable source. And not just any unreliable source, but Richard's platoon leader's mother, Leilani Hart. That's weird. Thomas Kane leads to Leilani Hart. Ann Ogle leads to Leilani Hart. James Hart leads to Leilani Hart. Tavita Nusa leads to Leilani Hart. The Tactical Move Storage Units leads to Leilani Hart. The white van leads to Leilani Hart. I didn't want it to lead to the evidence is, it's like, little dots in the road and they're all going and they seem to end up at Leilani Hart. And then to find out she's up to no good. And then she's up to no good, and she's up to no good, and she's up to no good, and she's up to no good. And why isn't anyone saying it? Except for the judge in Hawaii that, in a case of lying to law enforcement authorities, says, hey, I need to issue her a mental evaluation. I need to get her screened with a mental evaluation. There's something mentally wrong with this person. Okay. That's coming from a judge on a case for lying to law enforcement authorities. That's weird. And she was active duty. Leilani Hart was active duty at that time. What's going on? That's weird. And the JAG leads to Leilani Hart. The JAG on Fort Bliss leads to Leilani Hart. The command, Clem Coward, who does he lead to? Does he lead to some unknown person? No, it leads to Leilani Hart. And also, don't forget, to California, to Santa Clara, California, to Stanford University. His phone led there too. Yeah. Is that Leilani Hart? I don't know. I don't know. So somehow she's into everything. And I can't make that up. The evidence just goes there. I can't make that up. Our key witness leads to Leilani Hart. It leads to Leilani Hart. So Does Richard's murder lead to Leilani Hart? That's our question, because we're going where the evidence leads, and it, you know, and I don't think that I'm crazy for asking that question. I don't think that that is unreasonable to ask that question. And we have enough evidence for any jury to convict Dallas Hart. Leilani Hart's son, and Richard's platoon leader. Yeah. Yeah. Um, the one evidence, and I probably should look at it, does Bradford Bugado lead to Leilani Hart? Because the FBI man um, led to his son in law, Bradford Bugado, in the G3 of the 32nd ATCOM. Does Bradford Bugado lead to Leilani Hart? Yeah, that's a good question. See, it's really good to come on these lives and brainstorm, because that's a good question. Does anybody know if Bradford Bugado leads, or his, maybe his family leads to Leilani Hart? Okay, everyone. Thank you so much, Anicia. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you for your love. Kathleen, thank you. Thank you for coming on. I don't say this enough, and I need to say it over and over again, but your participation, your sharing, your love, your prayers, everything is crucial. Number one, number one, crucial in getting justice for Richard. Signing the petitions, getting that out, sharing the information just wherever you go. It could be in the store, it could be mouth to mouth, just in a conversation. Of course, to digitize. It is absolutely crucial that everyone share this story, because then it's harder for them to shadow ban. It's harder for um, those that are the man behind the curtain to delete, and absolutely things on my Facebook have been deleted. And we will not forget Joshua Lyons. We will not forget him. Okay? Um, no. And we won't forget the evidence. We have a lot of it. It's piles and piles, but every last piece of it, we won't forget it. Um, it's been hard work to put all that together. And so we're going to uh, try to help prevent other sons and daughters and families from going through this. We won't forget. This has been hell. We don't want this for our military. We don't want this for our military families. We don't want this for our sons and daughters that volunteer for our military. We don't want this for our military installations. We don't want it for the outlying community that has been hurt by this, because there are irregularities in the medical examiner, irregularities with the district attorney, irregularities with the handling, El Paso police handling of this case, because of some big bullies, some man behind you know, uh, a curtain that thinks they have the power, but they don't. They don't have the power. God has the power, and God's people have the power. And the more of us that realize that and share and stand up, um, the more that they won't be able to delete us, that they won't be able to um, hide the truth from the vast population, right? It's the greatest evangelism. is to fight for justice. It's the greatest evangelism because that's what, at the end of the day, with all of our little faults and foibles and failures, what we love the most, what brings us to the foot of God and makes us lay on our belly and say, uh, glory to God in the highest, is justice, fighting for justice. And we want justice. So thank you, everybody. And please share this information and fight for justice. Okay. Have a great night. And I will be back tomorrow.